up, passengers? Cruising with Chef Matt. My special guest, Vinny from Season 8 of Hell's Kitchen. What's up, Vinny?
Hello, Matt. Thank you for having me on your show.
Anytime, brother. I appreciate it.
It's been a lot of fun so far. We got to do a little cooking, a little chit-chatting. Guess we'll do a little more chit-chatting.
All right, so a lot of people saw you on Season 8. Big fan of yours. Great friend. I know you moved down to Florida, but after Hell's Kitchen, what have you been up to?
Oh, after Hell's Kitchen. Oh, believe it or not, Hell's Kitchen was pushing 15 years ago, believe it or not. It's been a good stretch. After Hell's Kitchen, I was actually living in Las Vegas at the time. I moved back to New York, and I was an executive chef at a restaurant in Brooklyn. I worked at a couple other places as a chef, and then I spent a couple of years. I knew I wanted to open my own restaurant, which I did, called Room 55. But before I did, I worked in a wholesale meat distributor, and I learned how to break all the hanging beef, and I built myself a great connection with an excellent meat supplier, knowing that beef would be my biggest expense. And I can honestly say I probably had the best beef in my neighborhood anyway, probably some of the best beef in all of the borough of Queens. I had my restaurant for about 4 years before I sold it. I worked in New York maybe another year or so, year and a half. I did some time at a country club as an executive chef, and I was the chef at a restaurant in a private membership club in Manhattan down by Central Park. And then I moved down to Florida. I moved down to Florida when COVID started, knowing there would be no work in New York. And I've loved it down there. It was great. Within 6 months of being there, I told myself, I'm nuts if I think I'm leaving here when COVID's over. It's paradise down here. And it really is. It's great. So I work a little bit, and I do mostly private chef type of stuff and work like that, which I prefer. I try to avoid having a boss when I can. So most of my work is private chef or independent type of stuff, with a little part-time job just for a little, guaranteed, money in the pocket. But I'm actually working on starting my own YouTube channel in the near future. I'm going to start recording in the next couple of weeks, I guess. But it's going to be more like trial and error, feel how I go before I really go full blast. And that'll be my next project. Continue my private chef stuff, get a YouTube channel up and running, and eventually maybe build a product line or two. So this way I have something to sell all you people. That's basically the way it is. Maybe one day if the cards fall my way, I'd love to open another restaurant one day, hopefully down in Florida. New York's not out of the question, but Florida probably would be more realistic.
I think everybody's going to be moved out of New York by the time that happens. I mean, look at me, born in Brooklyn. I mean, that's why we get along. I mean, you're from Queens. I grew up.
We speak the same language.
Brooklyn and Staten Island. I don't know what language I speak. My English is so broken. During the cooking, the pasta, you mentioned something during the plating of it, of the simplicity of the dish and the ingredients and everything. And it's kind of funny because I don't know about you, but when I was at the very end, Gordon pulled me out of the green room with no more mics on, no more cameras. Matt, you're an amazing chef. You just need to take the madman out of your cooking. And I couldn't process what he was saying because, as a chef, you like using this, and this, and you think it all belongs on the dish. And I went home, I pick up Michelle Richard's cookbook, thinking that it's Michael Richards, because I never really saw Michelle Richard's last name, spelled out anywhere. I worked for quite a few chefs that worked for Michelle Richard. I'm looking through this cookbook, and all of a sudden I see the salmon dish in it. And he stuffed the salmon with asparagus, and it was just like 3 or 4 things, and it was just simple. And that was the main star of the plate. And that's when I said to myself, this is what Gordon means. Take the madman out of your food.
That's what he means. Now, I get it. When we're on the show, it's like you feel this big need to stand out amongst the crowd. So you feel like, hey, everybody can make salmon with asparagus. I need to show Gordon that I can do more. And that's where sometimes we overstep or put too many things or try too hard. And sometimes trying too hard isn't going to impress anybody. He's far more impressed if you give him a perfectly seasoned, perfectly cooked piece of beef with a sauce that makes sense, that you made in the pan correctly by deglazing the fond the right way, than he is with seeing that you put 85 things on the plate. It's just the way it is. And I think that's part of learning. At one point, you weren't allowed to work the grill station because you couldn't hit medium rare or medium consistently enough yet. Eventually you could, and it felt like a major sense of accomplishment. Once you're able to do those things on your own, then I don't know, you kind of got to go through that stage of I want to show everybody everything I can do, so this way they know I can do it. And it's not really impressing anyone other than yourself.
Exactly.
It really is the truth. Once you learn how to like take that step back and say, hey, you know what? Not everybody's going to get a dish that has 15 components on it, but they will very much appreciate a dish with 4 or 5 perfectly cooked and unique components. That's when you really go from really, really good, talented cook to a chef worthy of running a kitchen, which is really the ultimate point, in my view anyway.
So it's, one of the things I notice, and in all honesty, I'm not saying it because you're a friend, and I think you got kicked off at the wrong time. I think you deserve the black jacket. With that being said, I know what I deal with people trolling me, and like, Matt, don't know how to. People don't realize my resume and the restaurants that I did work at back home in New York City. I did spend time at Caesar's when Robert Irvine was there, and was not nurtured, but mentored by him and Keith Mitchell. And Keith, after Robert left, Keith Mitchell was the executive chef there. So, Gordon's restaurants going in there and stuff. I was always, not always invited, but quite a few times. Keith's like, I want Matt here. And no one had a problem, more the whole political game that I have to play in corporate world or casino.
I can see that. I've done a little bit of corporate myself. It was always tough from the management end of things. I was a corporate sous chef in a place where, the corporate chef was, I get technically person, I guess would say was my boss, but I spoke to the guy twice. He sent me a welcome email when I started and an email about 6 months later when spinach got recalled. Other than that, I couldn't even tell you what the guy's name was. So for all intents and purposes, I was the head chef of the place. And I had a union crew. It was a little tough. Man, can you give him a hand? He's really busy. Oh, I'm busy too. No, you're not busy. You have literally nothing to do. You're prepping for 2 days from now. Can you give him a hand? Oh, that's not really my job. I understand it's not really your job, but he's busy, and on and on and on. Certain places are just, corporate doesn't work great for food.
And just the whole lack of teamwork. And I don't know if you had any problems, but like my season of Hell's Kitchen, the lack of teamwork was the thing that bothered me the most. Yes, I understand it's a competition. Cream's going to rise to the top. No one really needs to be cutthroat and all the other BS that, I had to put up. And don't get me wrong, I loved being on the show. It was one of the greatest experiences in my life. Yeah, and to be around Gordon, and especially my season, right off the bat, I got to see the guy break down a freaking halibut.
That was cool, yeah. That was cool, yeah. Being there, I probably learned more about other things than I did food. There wasn't a whole lot there that I hadn't done before. Coincidentally, the 2 restaurants I worked in Vegas when I got on the show, the first one had beef Wellington on the menu, and the second one had Dover sole on the menu, which we did both on Hell's Kitchen. So there wasn't a whole lot there that I hadn't seen or done before. It was just a matter of, like any other new restaurant, making their items the way they want them made here. So as far as the cooking end, I don't think I learned a whole lot from Gordon with that, only because, like you said, I didn't get a black jacket. And I knew that he did a few more cooler things with the black jacket chefs. But, ultimately, I learned more about other stuff, the production end of things, the television end of things, how to speak properly on camera, how to answer, how to present your answer by, incorporating the question. I guess it just made me maybe a little more business and professional and television ready, I guess you'd say. Paying attention to, you learn how to focus too. When nobody tells you is how incredibly bright the lights are all day long. You feel it. You feel the heat. You feel it in your eyes. Makes you constantly blinking. It's tough. It's another skill to learn. So that was a skill that I didn't even know I needed to learn until it was there. You're dealing with people with all sorts of different, from all different parts of the country, different personalities, different ways of doing things. Like to me and you, we spent most of our careers in in the heart of Manhattan. You can go to 100 different restaurants, and 70% of the technique and the quality of places that you and I would have worked at is going to be in and about the same way. And all of a sudden, you meet somebody from the Midwest. No, we don't do it that way at all. You should do it this way. No, we're not going to do it that way. We're going to do it this way. Well, it's not your kitchen. No, it's not yours either. It's his. And you know what? I'm going to guess that Gordon does things probably closer to the way Manhattan does than the way you do it in the middle of, Montana. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like the way it is. And that was another thing you had to learn how to deal with. Now, I just kind of like, I guess I kind of like assessed everybody, quick enough where I said, okay, he's here having way too much fun. He's good, but he's too nervous. He's good, but he's not really on the few of our level as far as ability goes. You kind of have to size people up and get an idea. You have to understand who your competition is. You can't be competition you don't understand. It's like they always say, if you can't identify the fish at the poker table, it's you. So it's kind of like the same thing. You have to size everybody up and have a little of an idea of where you are.
And it's kind of funny because it's almost like that ego thing, because you walk in any place with a bunch of chefs and cooks and everyone's looking at each other. And I'm not even talking about like any television shows. I'm talking about in real life, and nobody knows what anybody's done, and everybody's looking at each other like, oh, this guy can't, people are thinking can't cook and everything. And the perception is just wild and crazy. And then
it's so new and so different for everybody when you first get there, where you just kind of, roll with the punches. Whoever Chef Ramsay yells at the first day is who you're thinking is lesser. Whoever he pats on the back, you're not going to break that guy's horns because he didn't do anything to deserve it yet. As soon as he does, you're going to, try to, you're going to jump on his back too. But you were right before about like the teamwork end of things. I thought my team was okay as far once we got rid of the first couple of guys. There was 2 or 3 that needed to go, but once the first couple had left, I felt like we were okay as far as a team. Everybody did work hard. Everybody did understand what they were supposed to do. We understood that, hey, you know what? There's no reason to bury each other, because if we beat the other team, then there was no need. Then we win anyway. Then nobody gets screwed regardless, and that just made more sense to us. Except that kind of buried us too, because then eventually we were, as soon as we went on a winning streak, then he sends one of our players over to the other team and sends us somebody else that kind of like change the dynamics a little bit. It's a show. It's reality. It's a reality show. They can do what they want. It's their show. They can make it harder. They can make it easier. You just kind of got to roll with the punches. And I was good with that part. Never let anything stress me out. Never let anything worry me. Whatever it was, I was just going to go in and do the work. I always knew I can do the work. One way or another, I'm going to get the dish in the window. One way or another, I'm going to complete what I need to complete. A lot of people forgot that. A lot of people overthought that.
I kind of forget it, because there's one thing, like when I was at Caesar's, Chef Keith, great, one of my, I'd say my best mentor. I don't think I'd be where I am today without Chef Keith, even though I had the strong base and all these other chefs and all these great restaurants. But, Keith said, Matt, please stay on your A game. Because when you go to that C game, it's not good. And, it's kind of funny, because it's like coping skills that I needed to have, because my biggest kryptonite is my integrity. And when someone tests my integrity, then that set me off like a skyrocket. And at that point, it's just like, and honestly,
it's a tough one.
I love being in a real kitchen, in a professional kitchen, where there is teamwork, and there's guys, and people don't even realize there's guys that actually work with each other in the kitchen that could hate each other. But for the few hours you're in battle, and everybody got that adrenaline, and that's the greatest thing in the world, being in the kitchen during that dinner rush, and you get that adrenaline rush, and it keeps you going the whole night. But I love when there's teamwork and there's a professionalism in the kitchen. I mean, yeah, I'm older, and I got my start in the 90s, and not like early 90s, but the later 90s.
Me too.
But I still had that old school mentality with a lot. I mean,
So
it took me about like 7-8 years ago to first use a sous vide because I just love the old techniques.
Yeah, I mean, me too. I mean, we did sous vide at a place I worked at, but years before it was popular, before it had fancy names and stuff like that. I guess it probably was still called sous vide, but it wasn't with all the machines. It was just a cryovac bag of a protein, and it was soaked in a pot of water, you know, and you kept an eye on the temperature of the water, and then you cooked it the rest of the way after that. You know what I mean? But once it did become like the cool, popular way of doing things, I was like, I don't know, it just never really appealed to me. Going, why do I need to take an hour and a half to cook a piece of fish that I can cook in 6 minutes? You know, I don't understand the purpose. I don't understand the point. I just didn't really get it. You know, I never liked the idea. Why would I use that to braise anything? That's not braising. It's not braising. The whole purpose of braising is to release the moisture from what you're cooking to concentrate the juices and the flavors. You're poaching. You know, to me, every time I seen that, it reminded me like those pre-made meals from the 80s where you took the whole bag and no need to take it out of the bag. Just throw the whole bag.
Right, like Eastbrook cream spinach.
Yeah,
remember?
Something like that. Yeah. Like minute rice. You know what I mean? Like, I just didn't really understand. Like, what's the purpose of this? Don't get me wrong. Some people have figured out how to do some amazingly cool things with it, and it does make sense for perfection and consistency. But I don't know. I feel like it takes the art out of the cook a little bit.
I agree. I'm a bit of a purist like you are too with it. But like I told you before, like I did that creme brulee came out really good.
That makes sense.
And I did the 13-minute poached egg, and that came out really good.
That makes sense too. Poached egg, or was it in the shell?
It was in the shell.
It was in the shell.
Yeah, it poaches the egg while all in it. I did it for the 13-minute version. I think I'm going to do the higher temperature for 8-minute. I want to see if it comes out a little bit better than it did. But I mean, I use it for certain things just to have a little fun with it. But I still like going back old school technique. Like,
yeah, me too.
I don't think I would want to try to do a duck confit in a cryovac.
I don't see the point. I don't see the point.